The film opens a century ago in an old mansion. A woman named Emmanuel Alexander has confined herself to her room, while the butler tells her she needs to feed. Emmanuel runs from her room and ties a rope around her neck and uses a statue as a weight. She declares that whatever is going on will end with her, and she hangs herself. In present-day New York City, Evelyn Jackson is working as a server at a museum for snooty people along with her best friend Grace. Evie has felt alone since her mother passed from cancer 5 months earlier, and her father passed when she was 14. She then uses a DNA kit to learn more about her extended family. Evie receives a message from a young British man named Oliver Alexander. Despite some hesitations, Evie agrees to meet with Oliver in person. They have lunch and discuss some of Oliver's family history, as Evie is descended from Emmanuel after she had a secret child from an affair. He then invites Evie to London for a wedding between other extended relatives. Although a bit nervous, Evie agrees. Evie arrives in London at the Deville estate where the wedding will be hosted. She meets the stuffy butler, Mr. Fields, before meeting the lord of the estate, Walt Deville. Evie is charmed by his kind demeanor and handsome looks. He promises to make her feel at home. Evie is given a tour by the head maid, Mrs. Swift, who tells her about the bells in the house and how they are connected to other rooms. Evie also calls Grace to tell her about the estate and how hot Walt is. Later, she walks through the halls and witnesses Mr. Fields instructing a group of maids, picking one to work in a certain part of the house. The maid goes into the room where she is grabbed by an unseen creature. The next morning, Evie is invited to a family reunion to meet the rest of the clan. The great-uncle of the family gives a welcoming speech to Evie. Walt also gets closer to Evie and tries to flirt with her. Meanwhile, 2 other maids are instructed to work inside a wine cellar. While they mess around at first, they are soon picked off and grabbed by the same mysterious creature. Walt gives Evie a gown to wear for a ball that evening. While out in the party, Evie meets the tall, beautiful, and condescending Victoria and the kinder Lucy. Afterwards, Evie sits with Walt in the bedroom where they watch the fireworks and share their first kiss. As Evie gets closer to Walt, she is invited to a pre-wedding pampering session with Victoria, Lucy, and other female guests. While Victoria continues to talk down to Evie, she considers Lucy to be more of a friend. During the session, Evie's finger gets cut, and Victoria begins to suck the blood from the finger, creeping Evie out. Evie walks through the house later and discovers that Walt had been doing investigating into Evie's life, finding several documents of personal information, including her Facebook profile and other things. Evie confronts Walt and threatens to leave, but he convinces her that he had no bad intentions in doing so. He manages to seduce her, and the two make love for the first time. Walt also appears to try and trick Evie into agreeing to a marriage. The family hosts a dinner where Evie believes she will finally meet the bride and groom. After a speech is given, Walt announces to the family that Evie has agreed to marry him, shocking her. Moments later, the family brings out one of the maids, and they slit her throat and pour her blood into a bowl, horrifying Evie. She realizes that they are vampires, and Walt is attempting to continue a family tradition of having 3 wives from the other vampire families, including Victoria and Lucy, and Evie was the latest female descendant of Emmanuel, whose bloodline only produced boys. Evie attempts to run, but she is subdued by the family. Evie is taken into a cellar to prepare her for a wedding with Walt, but Mrs. Swift comes to free her due to feeling guilty over what happened to Emmanuel. Despite knowing she will be killed, Mrs. Swift helps Evie escape. Evie makes it into a nearby town where she meets Jonathan and Mina Harker. Evie asks for their help and is invited into their shop. As Mina calls for help, Evie quickly discovers that they are loyal to the vampire clan, and although she tries to run, Mina knocks her out and waits for the others to get her. Evie is prepared for the wedding. As she is set to take her vows, she remembers encouraging words from her mother, and she intends to fight back. Evie drinks Walt's blood and gains vampire powers. She sets fire to the place and pierces Walt through the heart before freeing a maid that was intended for sacrifice. Evie runs and is found by Mr. Fields, whom she fights and kills by slitting his throat. Victoria goes after her and nearly kills her, but Lucy helps fight back because she is tired of the cruelty and bloodshed, so she impales both of them and they disintegrate. A weakened Walt goes after Evie, but she overpowers him and throws him into the fire. As he dies, Evie's vampirism wears off. 2 weeks later, Oliver is still looking for Evie. She finds him first and recruits Grace to help finish him off.